Our job is to locate and evacuate. We're not at war here.
Not yet.
Whoa. Prophet, do we even know if these people are still alive?
That's what we're here to find out. We lost contact with Dr. Rosenthal a week ago when the Korean military locked down the island. 2 days ago, we picked up a distress signal from the team's research vessel. Someone down there wants to be found.
Raptor team, we're beginning approach. Stand by for green.
All right, gear up. Masks on. Once we clear the plane, form up on me. Shoots on my mark.
Green in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Go, go, go!
Howdy folks, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I am your host, the Mighty Bjorn, and today for you I have a mighty game review of Crysis Remastered. Now, let's just dive into a couple little basics here. I'm going to talk a little bit about the game then and my experience, and if I felt it would be worth it or not. The developer and publisher is Crytek. Now, that is the original developer of the original, but it's not the original publisher of the original. The original was EA Games. The engine was originally CryEngine. This one runs on a modified version of CryEngine 3. And its initial release was on Nintendo Switch in January of 2020. Sorry, not January, July. Forgive me, I'm old and shit. And then it was released on PlayStation 4, Xbox One, and Windows PC September of 2020. Now, that being said, it did not necessarily get the warmest of welcome, but here we are a year later. We're taking a look at this game, and I'm going to give you an opinion of what I experienced. Now, that being said, I was given a code actually from the developer for the game to do a review and content on. That being said, even though I got the game, no amount of hookers and no amount of blow is going to prevent you from telling you my true, honest opinion. So nothing but the truth here, folks. Now let's dive on into it. I'll tell you a little bit about the story first. It really hasn't changed from the original, so you could probably skip a little bit of this. But the game is a set in August of 2020. Wow, we're already past August of 2020. Did this stuff really happen? Memes. However, the original release of the game was in 2007, so actually the game was set 13 years in the future, and now it's kind of set in the past, eh? You're a Special Forces operative with a nanosuit, and the nanosuit basically turns you into Chuck Norris. Not quite as good as Chuck Norris, but yeah, still pretty badass. You're sent into an area held by the North Korean Army for a rescue mission and encounter aliens. Yes, aliens. Shit you not, aliens. But anyway, not really too much to say there. I'm not going to dive too deep into the story, but basically you're going through and finding things out as you go along with this rescue mission. Now, to me, the sounds are fine. The gun sounds I really liked. They really sound meaty. The explosions, they lacked a little bit, but not too god-awfully much. They still sounded like explosions, but the audible could be a louder boom, I guess you could say. Other than that, there's nothing wrong there. I felt actually the graphics are pretty good. For the most part, I ran the game on very high graphics with only a couple things toned down to high. And I ran on a solid 60 FPS. Now, I did fuss around with can it run Crysis? And I'll get to that in a little bit. The story itself is very good. I felt it was good. It got me hooked from the start. Now, it's been a while since I've played the original Crysis. I played the original Crysis back in 2007. And I believe, if I recall, that was... God, was that PlayStation 2? Has it been that long? Maybe it was PlayStation 3. I can't quite recall. It was just that long ago. I mean, we're talking over 13 years ago. About 14 years ago now was when the game was originally released. And I really, honestly don't remember too much about the game. Now, one thing I want to point out, I did look at a couple other reviews out there, and people were bringing out that I remember Crysis having a lean function. And I remember Crysis having a lean function as well. It was actually one of the earlier games that had a lean function, especially on console first-person shooter games, and I did look it up, and your original bindings, if I recall correctly off of the top of my head, is H and J, which honestly, those are really shitty spots to have your lean function. So guys, if you didn't know that there's a lean function in this game, go in there, rebind that, because it is in a horrible location, or just deal with it as is. The nano suit, I like the nano suit abilities. Me liking the nano suit abilities hasn't changed from my original experience with Crysis. It's nice because it gives opportunities to troubleshoot different areas in different ways. You know, you could go with the full frontal assault where, you know, having your armor boosted with the suit, or you could go with this more stealth approach, get yourself into a good position and launch an assault that way. You could sneak up on the enemy, things of that nature. However, I do want to voice that I was a little disappointed that no sneaking mechanics was really added to the game. I would have expected an improvement in the mechanics of the game. I'll get to that in a little bit. Gameplay, though, generally is fine, especially the gunplay itself is absolutely fine. The guns, you know, there is moments where I get some kind of weird recoil off of the AK here, which it's some weird number. It's an AK, folks. I mean, come on, let's not lie to ourselves. And sometimes it recoils a little heavier than it probably should, especially since I'm wearing a nano suit. That makes me super strong, but whatever. Very basic weapon options, but they do work. You get to pick up an anti-tank launcher. You get 2 different assault rifles in the game. Which one is the AK? One is called a SCAR, but it looks more like an XM8 to me. You get a pistol, which you can pack those akimboed, so you can have 2 pistols going. And then there's also a tactical shotgun and a precision marksman rifle, as well as there's emplacement machine guns. There is no squad automatics, though. No actual machine guns. So that's kind of disappointing in one regard, but probably better off in another regard. There's also, I did not find any submachine guns as well. The destructible objects is cool. It's cool to look back on those old destructible objects. Like some of the buildings, they're just kind of like tin shacks, and they pretty well just fall apart when you shoot them. But let's be honest here, that's a lot of games have done that and have improved on that. And I would have actually expected an improvement on that with this game, but yeah, not really any improvement there. That kind of reverts back to there's really no improvement on the mechanics themselves, no improvements on the stealth mechanics. That being said, also the AI can be absolute potato. I mean, sometimes I literally have the AI looking directly at me. I don't have my camouflage active, but they just don't even react to me being there. It's like they're sleeping or something. They're just standing around. As well as even sometimes the AI will react to me when I'm camouflaged. Like they can see me perfectly fine. They just literally aim and start blasting. And they're, you know, it's accurate fire. It's not spray and pray fire like, oh, I think I see something. And they start doing the predator thing. They literally just direct laser fire. The AI is a bit of a bullet sponge, to be honest, too. Like the very first guy I encountered, I put 3 shots in the back of his head before he dropped. And that was on normal, folks. And then there was other times where I was like dumping magazines into guys and they just were not going down. So the RNG on how much damage your weapons do actually feels really weird. Sometimes it's really good where you're dropping an enemy in like 2 to 5 shots, and then there's other times where you're mag dumping guys and you're blasting them with shotguns and pistols and every damn thing else, and they're just not going down. God mode engaged. I did run the game on the meme. Whoops, I'm on shit. I did run the game on the meme graphic setting for a while, but can it run on Crysis? Or sorry, can it run Crysis? Now, I actually was downgrading the graphic settings here. This was after about an hour of running Can It Run Crysis. And I switched everything to very high, except for a couple little things. I had switched to high, and that's pretty much what I ran the game at, which it ran on a solid 60 FPS. With Can It Run Crysis, I was only getting anywhere between 30 and 40 FPS. Now, it was fairly stable, so while my machine per se could run Crysis, I don't know if I would recommend that for everyone out there. I do run an RTX 2070, and I do run it's an i7 7800X processor, and I have 32 gig of RAM. So there you go, folks. That's a general rough outline of my PC specs. For those of you who must know, can my PC run Crysis? Sort of. I wouldn't do it constantly. And generally speaking, that being said, I felt the game was perfectly fine on very high. I didn't... Honestly, the game looked better on very high than it did Can It Run Crysis. So, I did see some graphic glitches, like I was in a shady area of a building, and every once in a while I would see light flicker as I walked past the staircase. And I did see that in a couple areas where light was like bleeding through solid walls, which was interesting. And sometimes where areas that was lit was actually getting bits of shade as I was walking. So actually I did see some graphic glitches even on very high, which was interesting in itself. I did see people reporting sound glitches, but I did not have any sound glitches myself. That being said, all in all, at the end of the day, well, the game's $30 on Steam, although right now this recording is on sale for $22. How do I feel about the game? It was okay, but I'm going to be flat out honest here, folks. I mean, I would say you'd have to be a real deep Crysis fan to want to actually buy this. I was not a huge Crysis fan. I liked it, but I wasn't absolutely crazy about it. I finished Crysis, but I never finished Crysis 2. I never even played Crysis 3. So I'm not a huge fan. Take that for what you will. I just feel at this point, while this is a shooter from 2007, and while graphically the graphic overhaul, the sound overhaul, that it looks good, but it's just a fresh coat of paint on an old game. And mechanically speaking, that's what this is. It's an old game, and it felt like I was playing an old game, to be honest. And there's just, to me, there's better first-person shooters out there currently on the market for the same or a lower price. Anyway, folks, that's my review, my honest opinion and review for Crysis Remastered. It's okay. It's not bad, but it's not great either. Anyway, folks, thank you very much for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed the video and have yourself a wonderful day.